Hello everyone, my name is Miss Jessica and I am going to do a walkthrough on how to sew our little horse with our horse kit that we are giving out. So what we have in the kit is 2 pieces of small special fabric. You can either use this or you don't have to. We have 2 sides of the horse's body, and what you're going to do is after it is sewn, it'll be on both sides like so. And we have 2 buttons for the eyes and a piece of yarn for a tail. Some extra things that you may need that are not in the kit. We have a thread and needle. You're going to need some scissors. Fabric scissors or regular scissors work perfectly fine. We have a pencil and we also have some pins. So we're going to start off with sewing on our buttons to make the eyes. And first you take each side and you want to make sure that the nice side is out, and then you have your back side here, and the nice side you're going to decide where you would like your eyes to be and then sew those on. And once you get those sewn on, you can then put these in nice sides put together with the outside, and then you're going to do the same thing with your pieces of fabric to make your mane. And one way I did it, you can do it this way, is you can lay the horse shape on top of the fabric pieces and then take your pencil and draw out how you'd like your mane to look, all the while knowing where the bottom piece is. So how I did it is I took the straight sides, or the straightest sides that I could find, and lined them up, and then you can kind of feel through, but if you need to, you can flip back and forth. And because this side is larger than this side and doesn't quite line up, I'm going to use this larger side as the front. And we're going to line this up, and then I'm going to take my pencil and I'm overlapping it just a little bit because we're going to then sew these onto the individual sides. So I want the mane to start right here. I'm going to have it loop up, and then I'm going to have it come down. Alright, so now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to flatten out these lines there, and I'm going to cut these out. One option you can do is you can take your pins and pin the fabric together so when you cut it, it doesn't move. And always be careful when you're using pins and needles as well as scissors. I end up pricking myself with them every so often. And we're just going to cut out these pieces, and there we go. So now we're going to unpin them and then take one side of your horse and you're going to line it up like that. And what we're going to do is we're going to then stitch it right on to that one side, and we're going to do the same thing with this other side. Line that up like that. And then once you get those stitched together, so we're going to do the nice side down to get it lined up. nice side down, line this up, and then you're going to, again, careful with the pins, and pin them together. And now we're going to use our back stitch to go in and stitch up those both sides of the horse. So before I really start sewing up my horse, what I'm going to do is I'm going to practice the back stitch on some of the extra fabric that I have cut out from the main part of the horse. Alright, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to poke it through the back side, and as I do so, my string likes to bunch up, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure it's nice and clean on the back side, and then I'm going to start the back stitch. So I'm going to go down and then pull that all the way through, again making sure that my back stitch is nice and ready to go. Then I'm going to go from the back side and poke that through, and then I'm going to stop. Well, no, I'm not. Just pull that all the way through as well. Now, here's the special part of the back stitch. We're going to start back at where this one ends. I'm just not going to go right next to it. I'm going to go out a little bit, and then I'm going to poke through. And before I go all the way through, I'm going to go about the same length that is right here between these two parts. I'm going to go about the same length to the other side of the stitch with my needle, so it looks something like this. So you have the same parts right there. Then we're going to pull all the way through, again making sure our thread doesn't get all bunched up. I like using the table in this case because then I can watch the thread so it doesn't get all bunched up, and there we go. And we're going to do the same thing, and we're going to go through, and then about the same length as those two stitches. They don't have to be perfect. You just want to keep in mind the stuffing that's going to be put into the horse after you're finished. We're going to go all the way through, and there we go. All right, so that's going to be the way you're going to sew up the mane to the horse, like that. What we're going to do is we are going to take the nice sides, put them together, and it doesn't have to be perfect because this seam all around here is going to be on the inside with the stuffing of our horse. So what I like to do is I start off, we need to leave an opening for the stuffing to go through. So I take a couple of pins and I pin where I don't want to sew. And there we go. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take pins and go all the way around the horse outline so the fabric doesn't move when I'm sewing. What I like to do is I like to put the pins the way I'm going to sew. So I'm going to start over on this corner and I'm working my way around this outer edge. And as I go along, I try to take the pins out so that way I don't catch myself on the pins. Alright, so pin the horse up, and we're going to start with our back stitch yet again along the outside. So now that we've backstitched all along the outside of our horse, you want to use the hole and flip it in right side out, which I've done. So that's what my horse looks like. As you can see, a little bit of the mane peeps out, so you might want to do your mane extra big so it looks a little bit more full. Now what we're going to do is you're also going to get some stuffing in your pack. And what we're going to do is stuff the horse. What I'm doing is I'm trying to make sure all the crooks and crannies are full. So now that we're ready to close up our horse, what I'm going to do is use a slip stitch, which again, I'm taking our scrap pieces and I'm going to practice this stitch before I get started on my horse. So the slip stitch is you're going to move along the line of these two sides of fabric, and you kind of want to make it look like there's no stitch at all in there, nice and closed like so. And what we're going to do is we're going to start on one side and we're just going to do a little stitch like that. And we're going to pull it through a little bit, and then we're going to go to the other side and kind of moving along the fabric, I'm going to move to the other side of where this stitch ended. So I hop to the other side and do a small stitch and pull that through, and again go back to that first side and again where that stitch ends, I'm going to start on this side and do a small stitch. And so when I pull it all together, and there we go. Nice and tight, and you don't see the stitches. So for the slip stitch on the horsey to help it close up, what we're going to do is we're going to do the little stitch where you do one side and then the other, so kind of like that. And you can kind of keep it looser until very last moment when you get to pull it nice and tight and it goes away. So now that we have the horsey closed, before I tie it off on the knot, I am taking our piece of yarn and I am placing it right at the end of the string so I can tie the tail on. And I'm just kind of going through the fabric just a little bit with the yarn in between the circle, so when we get nice and tight, it stays put. I'm just doing this a couple of times. And I want to make sure the tail sits nicely, so I'm going to take the two strands together, and I'm going to wrap the string around it, and one last push through the fabric and tie it off with a knot. And there we go. We have our very own horse that we've made. Now, this is just one way to do it. You can do it several different ways. This is just using everything we've put into the horsey making kit. But if you have any extra yarn at home, you can add more to the tail. You can, instead doing the fabric mane, you can make a mane with lots of yarn. And if you didn't have any buttons at home, you can always have your own specialized buttons if you like. Have fun!